In the afternoon of life, as Jung termed, the years beyond 35 where the call to individuation grows strongest, you may find yourself grappling with experiences that defy explanation to others, patterns too intricate for mere coincidence, dreams more vivid than daily reality, insights arriving from the unconscious without study, and premonitions of events yet to unfold. Carl Jung devoted his lifetime to unraveling these mysteries, and his shocking revelation. They signal not a descent into madness, but the emergence of your shadow, urging you toward profound self-discovery amid midlife's everyday struggles, but evidence that you are finding yourself. Today, I will reveal 5 profound experiences that Jung identified that only happen to those who have spiritually awakened. These experiences are so specific that they cannot be denied, and once you recognize them, you will understand exactly where you are in your awakening journey. And if you are having these experiences, you will finally understand why you feel so lonely. Not because you're losing your grip, but because your perception has expanded into realms most haven't yet touched, especially in midlife. When Jung taught that confronting the unconscious becomes essential for meaning, this shifts everything. Jung uncovered that spiritual awakening isn't merely a shift in viewpoint, it awakens dormant psychological powers long hidden in the human psyche. Not as vague mysticism, but as tangible forces guiding you through daily challenges toward wholeness. They are observable psychological phenomena that fundamentally change how you experience reality. And once activated, they cannot be turned off. The first one will sound familiar if you are truly awakening. Jung named the concept synchronicity, but most people completely misunderstand what he meant. It's not just meaningful coincidences. It's Jung's a causal connecting principle at play, where reality whispers to you through inexplicable patterns, linking your inner world to the outer like archetypes, manifesting in everyday life. Only the awakened encounter these synchronicities evolve from rare occurrences into an ongoing conversation with the universe, helping you navigate midlife's uncertainties. You ponder a friend, and they reach out moments later, affirming the unconscious ties that bind us all. You have a question, and a stranger mentions the exact answer in conversation. You see repeating numbers, 1111333444, not just occasionally, but multiple times in a day. Books fall off shelves and open to the exact passage you need. Songs contain messages that speak directly to your situation. Jung documented this profoundly in his own awakening. He wrote, "Synchronicities are not random. They are the universe becoming conscious of itself through you." But here's the game changer. Jung revealed these synchronicities amplify only when your consciousness crosses a vital threshold. Much like tuning into the collective unconscious, where archetypes reside, it's akin to accessing a perpetual signal you were once deaf to. Especially poignant in midlife, when individuation demands integrating the shadow. One of Jung's patients, a logical scientist, captured it beautifully. "I once dwelled in a realm of cause and effect alone. Now I live in a world of meaning and connection. Every day feels like reality is having a conversation with me through events that seem random but really aren't. A billboard answers my morning question. A bird appears right when I need confirmation. My late grandmother's favorite song plays when I'm making a decision she would guide me on. Yet this is the insight only the truly awakened grasp. Synchronicities can't be coerced. Attempt to summon them for ego-driven gains, and they vanish, flowing only when aligned with Jung's self, the core of individuation beyond the anima or animus. Reality discerns authenticity from pretense, mirroring how midlife crises force us to face our shadow, transforming daily struggles into paths of genuine self-discovery. This creates a profound loneliness. How can you explain to someone that reality is actually talking to you? That you're not seeing signs everywhere because you're paranoid? but because you've become conscious enough to perceive the web of connections that Jung called the unus mundus, the unitary field underlying all existence. Most people will think you're fabricating or unhinged. They'll say, you're seeing patterns that don't exist, indulging in magical thinking, assigning meaning to randomness. And you can't prove them wrong because synchronicities can't be summoned on demand. They're not performances. They're private messages between you and the universe. Jung was clear on this. The privilege of consciousness is also its burden. You see what others don't. And this seeing separates you from those still unconscious. Synchronicities become your secret language with reality. Beautiful, profound, and utterly isolating. But the second experience is even more transformative. This is Jung's most overlooked breakthrough, one that resonates deeply in midlife's quest for meaning. The transcendent function isn't mere spiritual transcendence. It's a psychological capacity awakening only in those who've begun individuation, allowing you to hold opposites without choosing sides, embracing paradoxes without resolution, key to integrating the shadow and archetypes into daily life. While everyone else is stuck in either-or thinking, you suddenly experience both in consciousness. You can feel profound sadness and immense joy simultaneously. You can see someone's divine essence and their human darkness at the same time. You can know that life is both meaningless and profoundly meaningful in the same breath. Jung wrote, "The transcendent function is the bridge between conscious and unconscious. It allows opposing forces to create a third thing, not a compromise, but a new creation that includes both, yet surpasses them." Let me make this concrete for your midlife journey. Before awakening, you're either optimistic or pessimistic, spiritual or materialistic, logical or intuitive. Once activated, you're all of these at once, aiding in self-discovery amid everyday conflicts. You become what Jung called a living paradox, capable of containing contradictions that would tear apart an ordinary mind. One of Jung's patients described the moment it activated. "It was like my mind suddenly became vast enough to hold everything. I could feel my mother's death as the worst thing that ever happened, and the most important gift I've ever received. Both completely true. Not a balance between them. Both utterly true at once. My mind didn't break from the contradiction. It expanded to embrace it. This is why the awakened often confuse others. You can be deeply spiritual while fully grounded, completely present while seeing through time, fully committed while fully detached. To the linear mind, you seem inconsistent, contradictory, even hypocritical. But you're not confused. You're whole. The transcendent function also manifests as spontaneous wisdom. Solutions to impossible problems just appear. You know things without knowing why. Creative insights come to you fully formed. This isn't channeling or spiritual fancy. It's Jung's collaborative creation between conscious and unconscious, occurring only when the transcendent function links them, vital for midlife's struggles with meaning, where facing the anima divided by animus leads to richer self-discovery. But here's the challenge. Once activated, you can't engage in most human conflicts anymore. Debates require picking sides. Drama needs you to choose, victim or villain. Politics forces you to pick a team, but you see truth and shadow in all positions. You understand every viewpoint holds both wisdom and ignorance. This makes you useless to anyone trying to recruit you for their cause. You're too aware of the complexity to accept simple narratives, too conscious of contradictions to follow rigid ideologies. You become what Jung called psychologically unrecruitable by any system needing true believers. And this leads directly to the third experience. Everyone dreams. But Jung discovered that in awakened individuals, dreams undergo a fundamental shift. They stop being random neural firings or simple wish fulfillment and become what he called messages from the self, direct transmissions from your deepest wisdom. This is what changes. Your dreams become lucid without effort. Not lucid in controlling them, but lucid in being consciously present as they unfold. You are simultaneously the dreamer, the dream, and the witness. You receive lessons, initiations, and guidance that you remember word for word upon waking. Jung detailed his own in his Red Book. He wrote, "My dreams ceased to be dreams and became visions, not hallucinations of a disturbed mind, but communications from the soul's depths that open only to those who've developed the capacity to receive them. But this is what only the awakened experience. Actual prophetic dreams appear. You dream conversations that happen verbatim days later. You see people you've never met who appear in your life, exactly as dreamed. You receive warnings that save you from disaster. Solutions to problems come in fully formed dream symbols that make perfect sense." One of Jung's associates, Anneli Sands, a business person with no spiritual background, shared this. "I started having dreams that came true, not symbolically, but literally. I dreamed my brother calling about our father's heart attack 3 days before it happened. I dreamed an exact conversation with my boss about a promotion down to his tie color. A week before it occurred. I couldn't tell anyone because they'd think I was delusional. But I'm not predicting the future. I'm remembering it from my dreams. Even more profound are what Jung called big dreams. Dreams so powerful they alter your life's entire trajectory. These aren't ordinary dreams you analyze for meaning. They're initiatory experiences that change you at a cellular level. You wake up entirely different. You've been somewhere, met something, undergone a challenge, more real than physical reality. Jung identified specific signs of awakened dreams. Encounters with luminous beings who teach through presence rather than words. Journeys through landscapes that exist nowhere on Earth but feel like home. Symbols carrying meaning so profound that seeing them changes how you understand existence. Deaths and rebirth so vivid you wake feeling like you've actually died and returned. But this is the isolating part. These dreams can't be conveyed. You can describe them, but you can't transmit their essence. It's like trying to explain color to someone who's never seen. The dreams carry a numinous quality, a sacredness, what Jung called the holy. And this quality can't be shared through words. You might try to share, but you get blank stares, polite nods, subtle disconnection. People either think you're fabricating or reading too much into ordinary dreams. They can't understand that you're not interpreting symbols. You're receiving direct transmissions. The dreams aren't metaphors for your life. They're more real than your life. This creates a deep divide. Your dream life becomes more meaningful than your waking one. You begin anticipating sleep not for rest but for reunion, with realities inaccessible in waking consciousness. You realize what Jung meant when he said, "Those who look outside dream, those who look inside awaken." But the awakening happens through a kind of dreaming, accessible only to the awakened. Before we explore the last two experiences that only the awakened encounter, subscribe and hit the bell. Share in the comments which of these has been strongest for you. Your validation might help others trust their own awakening. Now, these final two experiences are the most profound and hardest to integrate. If you're encountering these phenomena, reality speaking through synchronicities, holding paradoxes without breaking, dreams more real than wakefulness, you're not imagining, you're perceiving. There's a big difference. And Jung spent his life documenting it. This is Jung's boldest insight, that modern spirituality completely misinterprets. Awakening doesn't destroy the ego. It destroys the ego's monopoly on consciousness. What Jung called the ego-self axis. The relationship between your everyday personality and your deepest essence undergoes a complete reorganization. This is what really happens. You start experiencing yourself as multiple centers of consciousness at once. There's the you going to work, paying bills, conversing, but there's also what Jung called the self. Avast impersonal awareness. Watching your life unfold like a movie, and you're in both places simultaneously. Jung wrote, "The experience of the self is always a defeat for the ego." But he didn't mean the ego vanishes. He meant it discovers it's not the CEO, just middle management. And this demotion is simultaneously the most humiliating and liberating experience possible. Let me specify what only the awakened experience here. You'll be fully engaged in a conversation while simultaneously observing yourself from outside. Not dissociation. Full presence from multiple perspectives. You watch yourself get triggered and choose whether to act. You see your patterns play out in real time and can step out of them mid-sentence. One of Jung's patients described it brilliantly. "I'm living in a split-screen existence. On one screen, I'm a person with history, personality, preferences. On the other, I'm infinite awareness having a temporary human experience. Neither is more real. I don't choose between them. I'm living as both at once. It's maddening and miraculous. This creates experiences that sound insane to anyone who hasn't undergone this restructuring. You feel infinitely ancient and completely new in every moment. You know you're both the drop and the ocean, experientially, not just metaphorically. You experience what Jung called the relativization of the ego. Your personal ego becomes just one of many consciousness configurations you can inhabit. But this is what makes it challenging. The ego doesn't surrender easily. It fights back with what Jung called inflation moments, where it tries to claim self-experiences as its own achievements. I'm enlightened. I'm special. I'm above ordinary consciousness. This is the ego trying to own what can't be owned. And the universe responds with what Jung called compensation, humbling experiences, reminding you you're both infinite and utterly ordinary. You might experience cosmic consciousness one moment and struggle to remember where you parked the next. You'll channel profound wisdom, then say something utterly silly. You'll feel enlightened, then display your shadows in embarrassing ways. This isn't failure. It's the ongoing dance between ego and self that defines awakened life. Jung was clear. The goal isn't to eliminate the ego, but to relativize it. The awakened person lives in constant negotiation between personal and transpersonal, human and divine, finite and infinite. You become comfortable being both somebody and nobody, special and completely unimportant. This is why awakened people often seem paradoxical, confidently humble, powerfully surrendered, knowing yet innocent. They're not pretending or confused. They're living from multiple levels of identity at once, each true on its level. But the fifth experience is perhaps the strangest of all. This is Jung's most misunderstood concept. Living mythically doesn't mean pretending your life is a fairy tale. It means realizing you're simultaneously living a personal life and enacting universal patterns Jung called archetypes. You become conscious that your personal story is also a cosmic story being told through you. This is what it really feels like. You recognize your difficult mother isn't just your mum. She's the shadow mother archetype operating through a human. Your job loss isn't just unemployment. It's a death and rebirth ritual. Your relationship isn't just romance. It's the sacred marriage of opposites playing out in human form. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But who you truly are includes archetypal forces far larger than your personal identity. As you awaken, these forces become conscious, and you experience yourself as both actor and role, both human and myth. Let me give concrete examples that only the awakened understand. You'll argue with your partner and suddenly realize you're not just John and Jane fighting over dishes. You're enacting the eternal tension between masculine and feminine principles. You'll face a work challenge and realize you're not just solving a problem, you're the hero confronting the dragon. And the outcome matters on levels beyond personal. One of Jung's most awakened patients described it: I'm living in two movies simultaneously. One is my ordinary life job, relationships, daily tasks. The other is an eternal drama, where I'm embodying humanity's deepest patterns. When my father died, I didn't just lose a parent. I was experiencing the death of the father archetype, and my grief was both personal and transpersonal. I was mourning for all who've ever lost a father, and they were mourning through me. This archetypal awareness extends to recognizing when you're being constellated, Jung's term for when an archetype activates through you. You'll feel the warrior rise when facing injustice. The healer awakens when someone is hurt. The teacher emerges when wisdom needs sharing. These aren't roles you're choosing. They're archetypal forces using you as their instrument. But here's what's truly wild. You start recognizing others' archetypal configurations too. You see who's possessed by the victim, who's channeling the tyrant, who's embodying the lover. You understand most human conflicts are archetypal patterns colliding, not personal differences. This gives you immense compassion. People aren't choosing to be difficult. They're unconsciously enacting archetypal scripts. Jung discovered that truly enlightened individuals eventually experience archetypal dreams. He called direct encounters with these primordial forces. You don't just dream of a wise old man. You meet the wise old man. You don't just dream of a mother. You encounter the Great Mother. These entities are more real than dream images. They're living psychological forces existing independently of your personal mind. Mythical living also means perceiving your personal myth, the unique story your soul came here to live. This isn't ego, ambition, or societal expectation. It's the deep pattern encoded in your psyche from birth, what Jung called your innate destiny. You realize you're not creating your life as you please. You're discovering a story that's always been waiting to be lived. This creates the strangest experience: prophetic living. You start sensing what's coming in your story before it arrives, not because you're psychic, but because you're aware of the mythic pattern unfolding. You know the soul's dark night is approaching before crisis hits. You feel the call to adventure before opportunity appears. You recognize the threshold guardian before the challenge comes. This is what Jung understood: changes everything. These 5 experiences aren't random spiritual phenomena. They're symptoms of humanity's next evolutionary leap. Each awakened individual experiencing them is participating in what Jung called the collective individuation of mankind. Consider what these experiences really mean. Synchronicities reveal an interconnected universe responsive to consciousness. The transcendent function shows the mind evolving beyond dualistic thinking. Prophetic dreams suggest time isn't what we think. Ego restructuring shows consciousness isn't confined to personality. Mythical living shows personal life is the expression of universal patterns. Jung didn't see these as mystical experiences, but as dormant psychological capacities in humanity awaiting the right conditions to activate. And those conditions are modern life's chaos, meaninglessness, and suffering. Crisis isn't a mistake. It's the catalyst. He wrote that the spiritual problem of modern man forced him to experience these not because he sought them, but because consciousness itself is evolving. And these are its symptoms. This is why you can't go back once these experiences begin. You can't unsee synchronicities once you've lived in constant dialogue with reality. You can't return to binary thinking once the transcendent function activates. You can't have ordinary dreams once you've received self-messages. You can't live as just an ego once you've experienced the self. You can't see life as random events once you've recognized mythic patterns. Jung called this the irreversibility of consciousness. Each awakening experience permanently alters your psychological structure. You're no longer the same species. Psychologically, you've evolved into what Jung called modern man, in search of a soul. But once found, you realize it's larger than anything imagined. This is truly isolating. You're living in a different reality from most around you. Not a better one, but a more complete one. You see what they see, but also what they don't. You experience what they do, plus dimensions they can't access. You're like someone with color vision in a world where most see only black and white. You can't prove color exists to those who can't see it. But this is Jung's most important insight. These experiences aren't meant to separate you from humanity, but to serve it. Each person developing these capacities becomes what Jung called a lighthouse of consciousness for the collective, not by teaching or preaching, but by living. Your existence as someone experiencing these realities makes them more possible for others. Jung believed we're in a race between consciousness and catastrophe. Either enough individuals awaken to shift the collective, or humanity remains trapped in unconscious patterns leading to destruction. Every person developing synchronic awareness, transcendent function, prophetic dreams, ego, self-awareness, and mythic living contributes to what Jung called the sum total of consciousness available to humanity. You're not having these experiences just for yourself. You're having them for all who can't yet. You're pioneering psychological territories that one day will be common ground. The isolation you feel is actually profound service. What seems like personal awakening is really collective evolution happening through you. If you're experiencing these 5 phenomena, if reality speaks to you through events, if you hold paradoxes unbroken, if your dreams are messages, if you live as both ego and self, if you see myths living in you, you're not alone. You're part of the most important transformation Jung foresaw for humanity. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to join thousands who understand these experiences. Share in the comments which of these 5 you're feeling most strongly right now. Your courage in naming these realities helps others trust their own psychological evolution. Remember Jung's words, the meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow, but beyond the shadow lie experiences that redefine what it means to be human. Trust what you're experiencing. It's not madness, it's metamorphosis. To dive deeper into Jung's map of awakening, click the video on your screen now.